It's a pleasure to be here, and I am very relieved by listening to Bharat Manumolu and to my colleague Satyanarayana. In fact, they have made my job much simpler, by sort of mentioning so many facts and all that. But he said something about statistics. So in a lighter vein, I just wanted to say, there is a quotation which says, lies, damn lies, and statistics. So statistics is the last one, in the series of lies and damn lies. So they can be used in any way you like. So the statistics. So we need not put so much of emphasis on the statistics. But some impressionistic views also are very important, what is happening. If something is happening, if the skills have improved, it must be shown somewhere, So ultimately, maybe not immediately, but in a couple of years or so, the productivity of the industry should increase. People should be talking about it. You should be able to, when you are hiring a carpenter or a sort of Aaron Smith or somebody else, whatever it is, electrician, if you ask for a certificate from that fellow, he should say, yes, I have got a certificate from these organizations. Something like that. So let's leave the statistics aside. And he mentioned, Mr. Satyanarayana, that he is 2 months old here. I hope that new enthusiasm which he has would continue throughout his term, when he is there. So, but I must say he made an excellent presentation. And but with all my experience in administration and all that, he talked about so many schemes. I wish he had given a list of schemes that have been launched in Andhra Pradesh. Now, this is about Andhra Pradesh. My problem with Government of India is also exactly the same. Every day a new scheme is being announced, new organizations are being launched, and sometimes it's a corporation, sometimes it is an authority, sometimes it is a fund, sometimes it is something else and all that. So one doesn't get a comprehensive view of what exactly is happening on that. There's big buzz going on, everywhere conferences are being held on on skilling. But what exactly are these organizations doing? Has skilling started only with these organizations 2 years ago? The ministry is 2 years old. So or has it been going on for some time? And is it a one-time business? Somebody has said it has to be a continuous business. It can't be a one-time affair. And some of these things need to be discussed. So what I would like to do is, I just wanted to divide this one into 3 portions. One is as a recapitulation of the basic facts relevant to the topic at hand. But there my job has been simplified because he gave a lot of statistics. The second one is the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, which has been set up in November 2014. What has it achieved till now? What are the problems before it? And also to note that measures for skill development have started much earlier than last 2 years. Mr. Satyanarayana himself has said Andhra Pradesh has started long time ago. Maharashtra, started quite some time ago. And so it's not a new thing going on. Now this voluntary, apprenticeship scheme, the apprenticeship scheme in India was formulated in 1956. It's not today's. Then what has happened? Are we likely to repeat those same mistakes? So let us look at that. So the point is that it's not yesterday's this one. It has started long time ago. It's not going to end next year or the year later. It has to go on till results are achieved. The third one is, the third part, list major issues. 1 second, please. List major issues on which you could deliberate in the coming sessions. These are the 3 points. Now, I would just take only 4 or 5 facts. And the figures I have taken are from the Government of India figures for the year 2016. It's not somebody else. So I think you can basically rely on that. The figure for present employment in 24 major sectors of economy is put at about 511 million. Now, it includes both formal and informal sectors, though informal sector accounts for as much as 92% of this. Then second one is the work done by the ministry shows that in these sectors, this figure of 511 million, which is today, is likely to increase to 638 million by 2022. So that means there is an increase of about 127 million. Now that is what they are first aiming at. They want to train these people and then improve the skills in those people and all that. My first question is, there is another statistics I want to tell, that of the people who are employed now, it says that only 4.7% of the workforce has formal vocational skills. In the existing 511. Now let us assume, but it is only 4.7, then what about the other people? They also have to be trained, retrained, and continuously something has to be done about them. Have we taken that into account, the other part? Are we only concentrating on this 127 million which is going to be added to that? So that's one thing which we need to note, because out of these 511 which are there, I'm sure some of them require retraining, some of them require this one and all that. Then let us take about the number of the education field, because this is a summit for both education as well as skills. Now, the total number of people studying in schools and colleges show a figure of 48.3 million on their rolls. This figure may not be correct. No, I'm sorry, that's not correct. I mean, I was talking about employment, but he has already covered that. Now, talking about education, during 2015-16, of the total number of people going to the colleges and the universities, as much as 79.3% of the total enrollment is at undergraduate level. How much? 79.3. Of that, as many as 36% of people are for BA degree. Now the point is, that figure comes, the people taking every year the BA degree is about 10 million people. Now what sort of skills do they have? What do they do? What type of jobs do they get? Now, Wheelbox, that is the one he is referring to, in collaboration with the CII, has carried out a survey. It's called Skills Survey 2017 or whatever it is. They have worked out what is called the overall employability index of a very big sample of engineers, technologists, MBA, BA, BSc, BCom, and MSc, IIT fellows, and pharma and polytechnic, the entire gamut of it. The figure is not 40, this is about 38.1. So that's what it says. There has been an increase, only a marginal increase from last year to this year. But 2 years period, if you take, there has from 33% to 38% it has gone. But this figure keeps on changing. But even then, we cannot be too happy with the 38%, obviously something more needs to be done. So these figures I need to take into account. Coming to the achievements of the MSDE, I must say that it has done a tremendous job in the last 2 years. There's no doubt at all. And what they have done is, they have put the ecosystem, they built the ecosystem for skill development and put in place the necessary basic infrastructure to achieve that. I have said about 127 million people are to be trained, the new ones. So what they did is, they relate to about 34 sectors. So sectoral wise, they have made this one. And state wise also. Out of these, how many are to be trained from each state, they have said. Now the sector-wise requirements, I just wanted you to note, because sometimes I see the focus is not there. The highest number of people are required in construction business. The second one is retail, because retailing is going on in a big way. Absolute figures, if you want, I can tell you. About 6.2 million, no. Construction, about 32 million people are required to be trained in this one, in the 5-year period. from 2017 to 2022. The second one is retail. The third one is beauty and wellness area. The fourth one is textiles, handlooms and handicraft fittings. Fifth one is road transport and highways. Sixth one is furniture and fittings. Seventh is electronics. Eighth is tourism and hospitality. Ninth is logistics. And the 10th is telecom. Now, 11th is electronics, and IT and ITES, IT enabled services, comes very low. In fact, of the total 127 million people to be trained, it constitutes only 1.26%, according to their estimate. So sometimes there is a sort of overwhelming emphasis placed on the IT services, and then we talk about Internet of Things, and then data analytics, and then the new technologies which are coming up, and the blockchain technologies, and they are all very important. They are extremely important. But for a small segment of people with at the high end, the very highest end of the engineering skills and all that. So this is another focus which we need to keep in mind. Now, in the who implements, as I have said, they have created these institutions. Their training programs have been drafted, and they have all been certified. The training partners have been identified. The sort of assessors, for these programs, assessing authorities have been established and all that. All that is fine. Now, the beneficiary, the ultimate trainee, where does he get his money from? So he gets it from under, if it is Government of India, what is called the PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana, PM's KVY program, under that is being given. Also, Kaushal Vikas centers are being done. In addition to that, this is all under the aegis of the National Skill Development Corporation. But in the ministry, there is another wing, what is called the Director General of Training. Now, this Director General of Training is responsible for a large number of programs, including, it deals with the ITIs, privatization of the ITIs, upgrading the ITIs, putting up the new ITIs, and then training of trainers for the ITIs, and development of these in the private sector and private-public partnership, and then offering what is called Craftsman's Training Scheme, where about 126 trades, some of engineering, some of non-engineering, are all being trained. Now, what is the status of these colleges? Now it says, the very report of the ministry says, very few of these CTS curricula, that is the Craftsman Training Program, have been aligned to the National Standard Skills Qualification Framework, NSQF, that's called. They are not still aligned. So a lot of alignment is yet to be done in that particular area, Then, the figures keep on changing. That's why I said about statistics. 13,353 ITIs are there. I'm reading from the Government of India figures, which have a total seating capacity of 1.7 million. That is last year's report. This year's report says that 1.7 million capacity has gone up to 2.85 million seats. Now, one needs to check up whether this is all in place or really, some reporting is taking place. Now, again, only 15% of the teachers that are required. You require about 90,000 instructors to sort of cater for these people. And only 15% of the required teachers have been trained under that particular scheme, CITS. So he has mentioned that. So trainers are missing in many places. So you need to train the trainers first, and then you need to see, check these figures once again, Then apprenticeship scheme. Now, apprenticeship scheme, currently what is happening is 2.1 lakh trade apprentices are undergoing training in 30,000 establishments. Now, this is to be increased to 50 lakhs, from 2.1 lakhs to 50 lakhs by 2020 at a cost of 10,000 crores. Now this year, they are to train about 10 lakh apprentices. Now, are we sort of ready, or are we just putting these figures? I mean, one needs to see these things. Now, who sort of implements this apprenticeship scheme? At the center, it is implemented by the DG training. Now, this DG training, incidentally, I am not running down that particular organization, is not in tune or in sync with the modern trend, because this is previously a wing of the Labor Ministry. So from the Labor Ministry, it has been taken and put here. So the organization has been there for a very, very long time. I think it needs to be given a modern look, a modern outlook and all that there. And that is one. At the states, the apprenticeship advisors are there. The state also takes up. And the MHRD, that is the Ministry of Human Resource Development, carries on the apprenticeship for graduate apprentices and other people. So there are 3 organizations there. I forgot to tell you, even after creation of this ministry, there are 18 other ministries which carry on this, skill development program on their own. They have huge targets. Now, who is monitoring this sort of implementation and the targets? I think we are slightly sort of weak on the monitoring side, So monitoring can be done very well. I mean, more emphasis has to be given. Now, coming to issues, polytechnics. Now, I mentioned about that wheel box, this one. In that, sector-wise, they have said the acceptability, the employability index. In that, polytechnics perform the least, They are the lowest. Now, I don't know why. I think the polytechnics come under the AITCE, All India Technical Education Council. I think one needs to look at that and see what can be done with these people, because we have a large number of polytechnics and then churning out a number of diploma holders and all that. Now I would come to the issues. What issues we need to tackle? I would divide them into 3 types. One is achievement, underachievement. I'm not quite concerned about it because it is just settling down, so things would happen and then they would improve. But it is worthwhile taking note that of the budget given to the ministry, only 52% was spent during 2015 and 16. And only 44% was spent last year. So obviously things have not been planned well, or things have not been ready, but we can take that into our stride. And at the same time, budget for the coming year, I mean the current year, 2017-18, has been increased by about 39%, So being an administrator, my emphasis on the implementation, not on the program design itself. I think implementation. Are we implementing this in a very sensible, coherent, not fragmented, not piecemeal manner? I think this is exactly what is required, Now the total number of people trained and apprenticed, I think the figures need to sort of bring in some confidence about those figures, The ministry itself has recently issued a press note. In that press note, they have said that 3 states, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and Rajasthan, have cornered all the seats for the entire country. The country's quota has been exhausted in 4 sectors. I will tell you what sectors also are. These are in apparel, electronics, telecom, and IT and ITES services. So the bulk of the seats there have been taken in there. There is another report which has been published by the Hindustan Times about Delhi. They have said that some organization, TPs, training partners. Now, how are the training partners selected? I think it's they submit a tender, or a bid, and then on the basis of we can train so many people at this cost or whatever it is, that's how you pick up. They're supposed to be training, people involved in training. But I am told some of them are general, in trading business here and there. There are some sort of people there. Now Delhi, this one, somebody has taken a quota of about 500 people to be trained or so. They went there. You should read that news item. There are only 2-3 rooms, small rooms broken down. They can't even accommodate 20-25 fellows. When asked, they said, no, we have subdivided into various other people, We have given the quotas to other people. Now, that's why government is worried, in some of these things. So, somebody has said this training, skill development has become a big business now. I think it needs to be monitored very, very carefully. That is the point I wanted to mention. Then these are the two types of problems. But the third type of problem, this is what I am worried about. When Prime Minister demonetized all the notes, saying that it is a measure for elimination of black money, somebody said, okay, you are catching the existing black money, but what about generation of new black money? So how are you going to stop that? And similarly, how are you going to see that new untrained fellows come up, unskilled fellows, the new crop is coming up. So where is that crop coming up from? I told you about the BA fellows and all that. And I told you 79% are, undergraduates, of which about 38% are BA degree holders and all that. So schools and this one. It's a music to my ears to hear him say that in Andhra Pradesh, from the 8th standard up to the highest level, this one is being introduced. Now, if this is so, the government of India should copy it. Copy it and immediately introduce it there. And he also said that the syllabus is all cleared by the SSCs. That's what he mentioned. If it can be done here, why can't it be done elsewhere? And why can't it be made compulsory? The question is, you make it compulsory, I think from the educational institutes, we should start from there. Unless we start from there, another point is, we have these degrees. I think this is the linkage between the education and the skills, Now there are degrees given in sociology and philosophy and psychology and history and geography. In the modern age, if you see, a number of these things have applied aspects. Geology, geography goes into space, this one, remote sensing, something else, GPS, GIS, geographical information systems and all that. So all sociology, there is clinical, sociology of urban areas, sociology of demography, in psychology, there is clinical psychology, there is, industrial psychology, and so there are so many new branches and newer fields have come up on those things. I think the entire syllabus in our educational system needs to be looked at very carefully. And then you should try to re-engineer that whole setup, Till that happens, I think what should be done is, in each college, it must be made compulsory to have a hands-on training on some trade, whether engineering or non-engineering. As I told you, there are non-engineering trades also. That's one thing. And two, also introduce to those people a course in visual arts, performing arts, music, whatever it is, theater, cinema. Cinema is a big industry, in the world. And cinema actors shake things, in the world. So it's a very growing area. One film makes 100,000 crores in the first 1 week, isn't it? So cinematography and then the technology and all that is very, very interesting. So I think a new orientation has to be given to the education, That is one thing I wanted to make. I am told in Switzerland, no child, it is compulsory for every child to have hands-on experience of a trade. So I think something similar has to be done, As regards the current ongoing vocational training also, in addition to technical skills, I think cognitive skills and soft skills also need to be included. Because cognitive skills are thinking. If you are not able to think properly but only duplicate what is happening, it doesn't help. So cognitive skills and non-cognitive skills act on each other, interact with each other. So I think that needs to be done, And I think the involvement of states must be much, much more vigorous than what it is now, except in cases of Andhra Pradesh. And also Telangana have done very well. So they have introduced, they have collaborated with bodies like Siemens and all those people. So I think what is being done here needs to be copied elsewhere. Then one word about Government of India have signed agreements with about 12, 13 countries, to have this skills development. Now, if a particular trade they have skills, certainly we should get them. But the methodology of, skilling, what type of setup you should have, organization and all that, should be essentially ours, based on maybe one or two countries, like Germany, for example, where it has been a great success. The vocational education and training system of Germany, the so-called VET. Now, I read somewhere in the newspapers, President Trump hates everything European, but the only thing European he liked and he wants to take home is the German VET system. He has gone back and said we should adopt this voluntary education and, vocational education and training system, he has said. Now there, in Germany, the figures show that only 1/3 of the students go to the universities. 2/3 don't go to the universities, they go here. And there are 1.4 million apprentices a year being trained there, hosted by about 90% of the German big businesses. And 1/3 of them find jobs with the companies where they apprenticed. And the scheme applies to about 550 certified professions. So I thought I would, and the budget is shared 50-50 between the state and the industry. The industry bears a big cost. And the chambers, Apex Chamber of Commerce, the trade unions and the industry, they play a very important role in these things, And in fact, the trade unions are involved. And these chaps who are getting trained already become members of the trade union, so they have a vested interest in seeing that they complete their training properly and all that. And they think that this system maintains the social unity there. Whereas elsewhere, I would just recently, somebody said jocularly, when after Trump has said that, Americans see these people, that means the people going in for vocational training, as victims who could not go to the universities. Poor fellows could not go to the universities, so they have gone here. Whereas Germany sees these students as potential assets who might one day strike it if they are matched with the right vocation. Now it reminds you of India, In India also we try to look down on that and say, oh, I must get into graduation and all that. That's why I think we must remove the bias against the vocational education and say that both knowledge, there is nothing knowledge versus skills, it is knowledge and skills. So they are both partners in this one, it should be done. Finally, I want to mention that you remember in the 2000 and slightly before and after, there was a big jump in our IT business, the initial years. And that great success in IT did not come because of Government of India's efforts. It has come because of young professionals, initiatives taken by them, and set up some companies, and the practical training provided by bodies, private bodies like the NIIT, etc. NIIT had opened shops everywhere. And that is how that one. A second phase, of course, has come up, initiatives taken by Andhra Pradesh, the then Andhra Pradesh and all that. And because of the desire of the youth to improve their lot. In fact, when the Information Technology Act came in 2000, whatever it is, much later, I said this is going to kill the IT industry. Because it has grown without any governmental regulation, that's how it has grown. I can give you two more examples. For example, gem and jewelry trade, diamond cutting in India has gone up, not because of governmental efforts, but because of the focus by the industry itself. One of my friends who works in the diamond trade had given me an example of how productivity has gone up in the diamond cutting industry. 15, 20 years ago, it is a set of 10 people have to be there working on different things. One is splitting the diamond, another is cutting the diamond, the third one is polishing the diamond, like that. A set of 10 people can shape one diamond in a day. That was this one earlier, 20 years ago. And his boss, he was the manager of that huge, big company, one of the biggest in India, diamond cutting. His boss used to insist, "Arey, somehow we must increase this productivity from 1 to 2. Kaisa bhi karo tum. Import some technology, whatever it is, but this 1 must become 2. But now I am told it has become 9 or 10 because of rapid adoption of technology by those people, and skills. And do you know the employment in the diamond industry has come down? It has not gone up. And people are trying to seek employment elsewhere because, they have found that unless the diamond production in the world increases, and more raw diamonds come into India, there is no scope. That's why these people are trying to find another this one, So someone mentioned about the marine products export, the prawn exports from India, not triggered by the government, triggered by the private initiatives of people. So the point I want to mention is, these schemes should not be supply driven, but they must be demand driven. And industry must take a sort of front seat in these things. It's only then, government should play the enabling role, I think then only these things would improve. And in addition to this, there are some other issues like gender issues, women's role in this, how to get them into the thing. And then in the Naxalite affected areas and other areas, tribal areas, how do you get them? All these things are there. But I think we should now give up all that, what should I say, hype about, skilling, and then get down to basics and then try to do some work, Thank you very much for calling me here. Thank you.